Hello, fearless gamers, and welcome to another episode of Live with the Fearless. I am Matt, and today I am joined by the one, the only, you can get yours soon on AmazonPrime.com, James.
That's right.
Yep,
For the right price.
indeed. So, as the name of the video would indicate to you, this is a Orc primer. Orks are on pre-order right now for 11th edition, the first codex of 11th edition. And so we decided we're going to come together here, give us a little primer on the Orks to help maybe
Yes.
if you're brand new to Orks and you're like, what the crud is an Orc? This is a
And you have
stream
a
for you.
and you have a better understanding of what it is you're asking a loan for, because you're gonna need a lot of money to play a hard card game.
Yes, you are.
When the
So,
bank asks, "What is this?" you can explain it.
indeed. Now, you need a credit loan for a stampa. What is that? Well, let me show you this video by my favorite YouTube streamers.
There you go.
3 hours later, kid, just take your loan and go.
Yeah. I'll give you double this to be quiet and get out of here.
So, orcs. They're the biggest, the baddest, and the bestest.
Yeah, and they're, boring. But they're not. It's funny because they're full of flavor, but they get really boring with some of the fan base because it's always the memes and it's never the orc. It's like, come on, there's so much more to them than just being disciples of Gork and possibly Mork. You know what I mean? Like,
Indeed.
they're more than a joke.
So let's start us off with what is the Orcs and the race in all general. So, way back, before the Emperor of Mankind, before the Imperium, the Heresy, and the Primarchs, there
was the cube. Wait, sorry,
wrong franchise. That'll be the next stream. So, back in the day, when the Necron tier, we'll get into them when their codex comes around the corner, there was an event known as the War in Heaven. Basically, long and short, Necrons were jealous of another race called the Old Ones, which I believe the Orcs referred to as the Brain Boys. And they were having this battle, and when Necrons were like, we're just going to turn ourselves into beep boop beep robots, the Old Ones decided to create a bunch of races to help them fight against the Necrons and the Catan. And the three major ones were the Eldar, the Orcs, and the humans. But the humans weren't involved at all. They were like a last thing they made kind of deal. I believe so.
They needed it to marinate for a while.
Yes.
You got to put the oven on low, barely any heat, and it's just you gotta stew it for like millennia.
Yes. I guess you could say maybe they were like the backup in case everything else goes sideways. And the Orcs were designed to essentially counteract the Necron relentlessness in terms of the unending, always going might that the Necrons were, because they were Rubits. Rubits don't get tired. So the Orcs were designed to be a race that just embraces fighting. Like, if they're not fighting, they're looking for a fight to fight. And if they can't find one, they'll start fighting with themselves just to have a fight to fight.
They did not have an engineered kill code, which they probably should have if you were going to make something like this, because eventually fighting is going to stop. And
Yep. So the thing also with them is they're psychic, but they're not at the same time. Each individual orc generates a psychic field that when more of them get together, the stronger it becomes, which is the power of the Wa. Um,
Yeah.
this is one aspect some people kind of crank to 11, and that is because of this, the power of their belief gives them power. So, like,
Right.
for example, they believe red is the fastest. So they believe if they paint something red, it'll go faster. And because all the orcs believe that, it happens.
Yeah, like it's important to note it actually happens, but where people go way out of line with this is the memes of the or well, if the orcs just think that they can't no, that's not how it works. It's
Um,
instinctual. It's an instinctual belief, not a like practiced experience is a difference.
and they are bound to a like rule of logic because like the old ones embedded in a bunch of the orcs the ability to create things. So without learning how to engineer, they have an innate ability to understand how to engineer things. So there's some memes like, oh, if you pick up this lamppost and they says it's a shooter, it's going to start shooting bullets magically, when that's not the case. The orc has an innate understanding that a shooter is a box with tiny bits of with bullets, a handle, something to pull that makes and a barrel, and the bits inside shoot out of it. So
Yeah,
they build
it's
those pieces, they go, this is a shooter, and then it works.
yeah, that's the thing about it. Like the shooter some of orc tech will work in non-orc hands, like it actually
Yep.
functions. It's like they made a real flashlight. It actually
Yep.
shines light. Look at that.
There's
But like
actually in one of the Ragnar novels, he does ride an orc buggy around.
of course you would. But
Yes.
but but like so they will work, but a lot of their guns also like you look at it and you just go that
That
trigger's not even
shouldn't.
hooked up to a spring. How does this doesn't make any sense. But in the orc's mind, they made it. So
Yep.
that's why it works. They don't just say they don't just pick up an old paper towel tube and go, it's a lightsaber. Like they,
Yes.
they have to
So
make it.
like in that prime example, they go, okay, a lightsaber is a tube, it's got a battery, and it's got a gem. So if those
Yeah.
three things aren't there, they're like, that's not a lightsaber. Um,
Right.
and the power of the Wa that they generate also functions as that power source. So they could go, oh, here's a battery. Where's that battery getting its juice? It's getting it from the Wa field that the orc develops, which is why there are some tech that doesn't work in non-orc hands.
And some
Um,
tech that needs the orc to bubble over with a wall. Like they gotta get
yep.
really frenzy with it for it to be fully charged. They
Mm-hmm.
don't understand the concept of expiration dates or dead batteries or things of that
Yes.
nature. It's not a concept in orc society.
And orcs also have the what was it? They have one of the toughest things about the orcs is their ability to reproduce because they are sort of fungal like in
Oh
the
yeah, they completely are a
sense.
spore.
Yep.
They're a non-gender, by the way. They. It's
There's no
just
such thing as a female orc or a male
you know,
orc.
or a male orc. They just
Yep.
use the voice actors because they get the best guttural sounds. But like they but like Ginger could probably voice an orc, no problem. But anyways, but like there is no gender with an orc. So yes, they're orc boys, but that's like saying my friends. Like you
Yep.
know what I mean? That's like that's a dude.
It's a
You're a
term
dude.
of
He's a
endearment
dude.
more
He's a dude
than
because we're
yep
all dudes.
dudes.
Like that's how it works with orcs. That's an orc boy. That's an orc boy. We're all boys, but
Yep.
not boys. You know what I mean? So like, and there are spores. One orc on the planet basically is contaminating the planet. They are a
Hmm.
walking biological disease in a certain regards to that kind of concept.
Yep. And they also have a interesting hierarchy society. They believe in the biggest and the baddest. So the orc boy that leads them all is always going to be the one who's proven him to be the strongest and the biggest. It's essentially prison rules. You find the biggest dude on the lot, beat him up, you're now the boss.
Yeah, it's prison rules and it's MMO RPG rules. Like you ever notice if you're playing a game that's massive multiplayer, the end boss is always huge because it's easy to
Yep.
target for everybody. Well, that's the end boss orc is always huge
Yep.
because like
Huge, huge,
they're the big,
huge.
yeah, huge is strength. Like to them, size is strength. If you're
Hmm.
a runt, you're never going to be big. Also, to get big, you got to, they do train, they do eat
Yep.
they eat themselves. It's very strange. But what's also strange about it is that we've just been talking about orcs, but technically everything in the orcoid species is the same
Yep.
fungal concept, including squigs.
Hmm.
It's very weird, but because like they don't you cut them, they will bleed, so they project like a mammalian creature, but they technically are a mammalian fungus because they literally like if you have this codex, they go into the ground and they're Pikmin. They're Pikmin. That's what they are. It just occurred to me that you're playing an army of Pikmin.
Basically. And so with that, after the war in heaven was finished and the Necrons went to sleep and the old ones went away, the Orks proceeded to plague the galaxy, looking for the next best fight of their lives. This
Yes,
rolled
yes,
them
they
into the Horus Heresy, where they were almost wiped out. There was one major campaign that I can recall off the top of my head, which was the Olenor Crusade, where it was said that the majority of the Orc society was essentially wiped out and Horus was made War Master. And
yes.
the remnant of the Orcs was left in charge of the Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion and the Space Wolves had cornered the Orcs into one last sector of the galaxy. The Alpha Legion said, "You guys stay here, we'll go in and take care of them." The Alpha Legion came out and said, "They're done. They're gone. Don't even look in there. They're dead." And the Space Wolves, being the Space Wolves, were like, "Okay, we're gonna find a witch now." um,
We're gonna
and
cast our ruins, which isn't psyker abilities.
of all the jokes when the Space Wolf Codex comes out.
Yeah.
um,
Well, can we just take a moment to appreciate two factors?
uh,
A, the war in heaven ended because the Necrons got tired,
yep.
basically. Like they really are the big bad of this setting because they almost wiped
One.
out the setting. But and then secondly, can we appreciate the fact that orcs were cornered to a pocket of the galaxy facing extinction, which is nigh impossible to do because of their spores.
Yep.
So, like,
It's an impressive feat when you really think about
yeah,
it. And then the orcs eventually started rising up and led to the events known as the War of the Beast, where the largest collection of orcs just rolled in on the Imperium and actually got to Terra. And were like, "We's a gonna kills you all, you gits." And that was when the Death Watch was created. That's when we found out the Fabricator General was kind of a dick. Um, we found out that a lot of people involved in Imperial politics are jerks, and
yes,
they introduced us to what was called the Prime Orc, basically an orc near godlike because of just how many orcs he had amassed. All of the Wa fields accumulated into this one orc, this not one, these several orcs that became like the beacon of the conduit of this energy, and they were like on par, like they with a Primarch. Then they actually needed a Primarch to stop this from happening. They were eventually vanquished, and then the Mechanicum secretly testing technology to see if another event like this happened, could they just yoink yeet Mars out of the system, teleported the orc planet known as Olenor away, and maybe, quote unquote, maybe now the planet Armageddon. Which is why there's been 3 wars of Armageddon involving the orcs. Only 2 involved Gazgul, just to remind everybody there, because it is a little
yeah.
weird. There's like 4 wars of Armageddon. Gazgul was only there for 3 of them. Um, and that leads us into the orcs today, which is your classic fighting boys, who are always walking around, you gits.
It's funny. They mirror in many ways they mirror the dominant faction of the time, right?
Mhm.
So like the Imperium, I know nobody likes to hear this. They're the dominant faction. They have the most stuff,
Yep.
which is why the orcs are always fighting them.
Mhm.
The orcs would fight the Eldar if they could find them, but like that's hard to do. The Necrons are asleep and they don't know to fight until they wake up, and then the Necrons don't even view them as sentient half the time, so you just kind of leave them alone. But like the Imperium is what they encounter the most, which is why they have the most fighting against the Imperium. And just like the Imperium, they had their biggest epic dudes go to the wayside, and now they're kind of a shell of their former glory.
Mhm.
Like it's interesting. It's
It's
almost like whatever they rise to meet, they mirror.
Yep. Essentially, so the orcs you see today are not the Knorks, as they were originally called, of the years of the War in Heaven. Like, they used to be way more technologically advanced, and all of that info is kind of gone. The mech boys, again, they retain, like, basic knowledge for developing and engineering, which allows them to maintain a level of technology, but not
Yeah,
to the
it's like
feats they
having a
used to
knack.
be.
You say somebody's got a knack for something. The mech
Yeah.
boys, the orcs that become mech boys, have a
Mhm.
knack for tech.
Yep.
Like they made their first stampas again after seeing a Imperial Titan. They were
Mhm.
like, "Ah, I get it now." And then they started building a gigantic effigy into a stampa. Like
Yep.
they just have a knack. You could call it the knack almost, and that's how like they're pain boys. You could call it medicine, I guess, but they keep things alive, so it's weird.
Debatable, though they were able to put a severed head back on an orc and bring it back to life. So
So,
there you
like,
go.
we think
As
they
you
have a knack.
do.
Yeah, they have a knack for something. I don't know what you want to call it, but they have a knack for something.
Indeedly. And so the orcs are, in one sense, the one of the more terrifying races in Warhammer 40,000. But at the same time, they tend to be the goofiest because they always have them talking with like Cockney accents and like this very low-brow form of speak as we've been going. They go, "Oi, you gits," instead of just like, "Hey, you jerks." It's always the boys, and they always talk in just weird "Weezer Gonza," like almost Jar
Yeah,
Jar Binks in a sense.
it's a mix of Jar Jar Binks inspired heavily by Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the boys. It's like, but we's are gonna get you type of deal. It's like what it is.
Essentially.
And the thing about them is, like, of all the factions in 40K that truly was start because 40K was basically Warhammer Fantasy in space. If we're gonna be
Hmm.
complete, if we're gonna just be honest for once, 40K fandom, it was started off as fantasy in space. Let's be real.
Yep.
Uh, the orcs are the ones that still most resemble their Warhammer Fantasy roots. Like you literally, if you take the guns out of their hands, they're just orcs from fantasy. Like
Yep.
that's pretty much exactly what they are. It's just weird. But so because of that, they are off. Like they could be like when an orc like like Hell's Reach, that novel about like the orcs on Armageddon and everything. That was
Yes.
terrifying because you were in the orcs zen zone of just destructive carnage whipped into a frenzy.
Hmm.
But when they're searching for that, they're very weird and off. Like like I mean Dawn of War 3 is the black sheep, but like he wants this pointy stick.
Yep.
Like that's like
Yep.
that's what they do.
They were told about a spear and they're like a super pointy stick. Let's go get it. Or
Yeah.
in think it was Chaos. No, it was
Retribution,
Retribution. The
the
orc
hat.
is there because he wants the Inquisitor's hat.
Yeah, because
Like he's
he's a
sitting
pirate.
there.
Because yes,
He's
pirate
sitting there
orcs.
going, "I am not interested in anything you're talking about right now, but I will do it if you give me that fancy hat."
Yeah, like they don't have traditional sentient species drive.
Yep.
If they did, they would take over the
They
galaxy.
would
Like they
be
have just
unstoppable.
by numbers, just by the numbers alone.
Mhm.
But they don't think that way. They don't think like a typical faction to take and hold ground. They just we're here on this planet. We're not necessarily defending it from invaders, but we are. But we're not even thinking about that because we
Hmm.
kind of want you to land so we can fight you. It's very strange.
Usually,
Like,
typically, a time an orc would invade for conquering purposes would be solely to establish dominance.
yes,
I want everyone to, so like, if a speed freaks dude, because like, oh, who's the Wazdaka? If someone wanted
yeah,
to outdo Wazdaka in the speed freaks, they would start conquering planets to go, look, boys, I got more planets than that Wazdaka get. You gotta follow me now. Like,
yeah.
that's
They are
essentially their
might
reasoning
makes
for
right.
conquering. Yep.
Yeah, but like they don't have, but like they don't think of it as like an empire the way we would think of it as an
Yep.
empire. They just look at it as like that's my stuff,
Stuff.
and either I imbibe it my stuff or I decide I want more stuff. And
Hmm.
if you take something from me, I'm gonna try and take it back until I get bored or
Yep.
die. One of the two. Like it's they don't like they stop fighting. Like an orc establishes cunning when he knows how to withdraw, and it's not just from being bored. That's a cunning orc, which
Hmm.
sounds weird, but that's how they fight. It's like the best way to fight an orc is either with brutally oppressive, overwhelming firepower to just like because you can trauma dump on an orc. You can traumatize them to the point where like, oh my god, that was brutal beyond compare. We just don't. I just not strong enough, and that's traumatizing. Or you can bore them.
Yep.
And then they'll go off and do something else.
And one other thing that is interesting is while the orcs do, to a degree, understand there was a race of boys, like I said, called the Brain Boys, that made them, they do have a pseudo religious belief. They have two gods that they can worship called Gork and Mork. One is
This could be
brutal
confusing.
and cunning, while the other is cunning yet brutal.
Yeah.
And
And
Zip
it's described usually as the orcs worship Gork and possibly Mork.
Mork.
Because they might even be the same thing with two different names, is how it's
Yep.
set up. It's just,
And out of all of them, that is where the most prominent orc out of all of them, Gazgul, comes into play because he is known as the prophet of the Wa, because it is believed he actually talks to Gork and Mork. He's never sure which one he's talking to, but he's pretty sure the voice in his head is one of them.
and let that be a lesson to you when somebody says they're talking to God. In the orcs, that makes you a prophet and not a crazy person. But that's by orc logic.
And heck, there actually was a time where one of their psychic abilities was to summon the foot of one of these gods to
Yes,
smash on you.
it was
And
a
a
foot
literal,
shaped template.
yep, it had a foot-shaped template, and it was described as a literal orc foot coming from the sky and down on the ground.
Yeah, like they don't. I said earlier you can scare an orc, but it's not like I get everything about an orc, which makes them interesting, but also why I say they're kind of boring because of how one-dimensionally they get used, not just by the fan base, by GW as well. Um, because it's just easier to just throw them. Like when in doubt, we need a conflict on this planet. Orcs are there.
Orcs.
Which is fine, but there's more that you could do, and they typically then we don't get to see them more, right? Because what happens? Oh, orcs are there. So of course the Imperium, because it's more than likely an Imperium world, is
Hmm.
going to defend it. Then the Eldar are showing up because they're going to be like, I can get something out of this. And then chaos shows up, and then it becomes a chaos campaign. And the orcs get put to the wayside again.
Yep.
So it's just like the orcs started, but the orcs don't get to have anything really build up for themselves, which is really sad.
They're,
But like,
sorry.
no, yeah, but it's just like they can get orc scaring an orc isn't like scaring a human or Eldar. It's different. But you can scare them. It's just in a different capacity. And I say that because they have no problem running into a demon portal or doing weird teleport attack without having any real understanding of the consequences about all of that.
Yep. Um, One of the biggest campaigns that the orcs ever really did was the wars in Armageddon. I don't really know what was with the first one. I believe that the general gist is that because it's Olinor, which is believed to be their planet of origin, that it kind of interests the orcs. But I do know that the Second War of Armageddon, that's when Ghazghkull came into play, was
Well, we
done
know it was
because. Sorry?
well, we know the first war of Armageddon was a chaos war.
Oh, was it? I did not know that.
Yeah, the first war of Armageddon was Angron and the Grey Knights and Space Wolves.
Ah, I learned something new from this.
So like that's like there's a bunch of chaos shrines there, and it was literally Angron manifested and was leading the world eaters and decimating the world, and the Space Wolves, the first population of people of Armageddon, and the Grey Knights were like, we got to stop this. And the Grey Knights got into conflict with the Space Wolves because the Space Wolves was like, "Grr, they're people. We need to save the people." And the Grey Knights are like, they just got subjected to corn. Everybody's dying today. Okay, I don't care. And it's just like, because the Grey Knights know what's up. When the Grey Knights show up, they're here to party. And they're like, listen, just we just hit the reset button. We're fine. So it's, but so there was conflict there, but it was Angron and the Chaos, and it's thought all of that aside from Eleanor, one of the theories, because I don't know exactly why Gaskell was like, "Hey,
Yeah,
Armageddon, we."
well,
I think it was
the
all the
reason
blood rights.
because the reason because Ghazghkull was there was because they were actually on their way to invade Uthwi, and
That's right. And Eldar was like,
Eldrad
"Psych."
Eldrad made basically did, thanks to a warning from Jane Czar. She warned Eldrad, and Eldrad sent a strike team to attack the orcs that deviated them to Armageddon. And then Ghazghkull landed his forces on Armageddon. That's when he met Yorick, and he's like, I gotta beat this git. And the rest
That's
is
me, man
history.
crush. I mean,
Yes, Yorick and Ghazghkull, the relationship that can never happen.
the relationship we need in life is Yorick and Gaskell. But yeah, no, that's right. The Eldar did shenanigans and
Yep.
tomfoolery. You have to remember the whole Eleanor lore is lore after the fact. So like the
Yes,
older
and
lore never had Eleanor.
it's also speculation. Like they never outright said,
Yeah.
yes, Armageddon is Olenor. It's all been theorized because in the story when Olenor was teleported, they were like, where did it go? Uh, it teleported. That's all I need to know to prove this works. They didn't really care where the planet went as long as the planet went somewhere.
Yeah.
And
Which,
so
not the best hindsight because it could have went into Terra, but
yeah.
whatever.
So the theory is that Olenor is Armageddon, which would be one kind of reason why most orcs may find a pull to Armageddon. Ghazghkull, it's that denied prize. He knows there's a dude named Yorick there, and he really wants a good fight, and Yorick is the only dude that gave him a good one until they added more stuff like Belial. Supposedly he's got a thing against Belial because of Calidus Harbor, and he's got a thing against Ragnar because he cut off his head, and that didn't kill Ragnar, which it should have. And no, Ragnar cut
It's
off Ghazghkull's head, and Ghazghkull pounded him into paste.
right, and that's how he became a Primaris.
Yes.
To save Ragnar, he became a Primaris, and that whole thing happened because he did have beef with Belial before one. I don't. I don't remember exactly. It was before one of the Armageddon Wars.
I
It
think
was
it was the
there
third one that it was
because
between those
this is
two.
when Belial was third company master and not
Yep.
leader of the Deathwing. And
Yes.
so that happened first, and then of course the Space Wolves heard that Gazzo's got a grudge against the Dark Angels. He has a grudge against us too, and that's why he has it. But,
And so now, when it comes to the game itself, orcs are a horde army. As we were joking before about, oh, you better start taking out a load because you're going to need a lot of orcs. Orcs is a massive horde army. I believe. So, like, in most army factions, your starting pool of dudes is either like 5 to 10. Orcs, it's usually 10 to 20. So, you're going to need
yeah,
a lot of boys. And stat wise, they're not the greatest because they're relying more on numbers versus efficiency. Because of the classic orc montage of there's never enough Daka.
yeah.
So they
They
just
don't
throw as
train.
many guns as they can. Yep, they don't train at all.
They get strong and they are good at fighting, but they don't train like they don't train to shoot at
Hmm.
all. They just shoot for shooting's sake. And then they don't really train like you might have a super sneaky git, but like he's just got a knack and he just gets better at it because he does it a lot. But they
Yep,
don't actively they're not like going, okay, boys, today I'm gonna teach you how to use that pointy stick. They just do it.
do it.
So they're naturally tough and strong, but they're not trained, and that's represented by them being kind of I. But so, but you just have like to make 74 armor checks, and that's how you lose. So it's just
Yep,
like
like actually I think let me pull up because they did show off the data sheets for them.
yeah, I think
Let
they have like an extra wound now, and they have like strength higher, like strength and toughness is higher. They became tougher, that's for
Yep.
sure.
Let's see. Latest news. Uh, I should have come prepared for this. Let's see. Pre-orders, what you get. Let's see. So, mix and match, what you get. Orc detachment, new orc rules, pile in, data sheets. So, like your regular Orc boys, so you're going to be dealing with toughness fives. Let's see, 1 wound for the boy, 3 wounds for the knob. Their saves are fives, and they're primarily going to be hitting on fives, unless in melee. They hit on threes in melee. So I don't know why it was blacking out my screen just because that was there. Um, but
But yeah, they're your horde. Like the
yep,
only thing that could be as hordy as them, or maybe more, depending upon how you build them, is Tyranids.
yep. And they've got a couple of specialized units for specific stuff. Like they have the tank busters, which are made for taking out armor. They got rid of the burner boys, it looks like. And the something else. They did lose a bit in this new codex, um, which is a shame, but that's unfortunately the way it is. It looks like a lot of them kind of like merged them into just like, oh, these are just boys with guns, so they merged it all with the boys to make them a little more customizable.
Yeah.
Um, so this is going to be an army where you want to focus more on just bodies after bodies after bodies and not relying on amazing stats and durability. You got to go into this expecting your orcs to get killed. um,
Yeah. And as with anything, there's always exceptions. There's
yep,
specialized armors, just like there's Godzilla Tyranid lists. You can do like armored up canned,
yep,
can opener style orcs. But even there, you are large in number for how defended or how elite you are, because you really are going to take losses regardless.
yes.
Like you're not gonna come out of there going, I lost 2 guys today. You're gonna come out of there going, oh my god.
Half my army's gone. um, and they have this new thing where they get riled up. And there's different ways that they can rile themselves up. And what the riled up rule does, here we go, army. So they have this thing called the WAF, as we've discussed. The rules of them is that a friendly orc unit friendly orc units with this ability can re-roll advance rolls, become riled up as stated in other rules. While a unit is riled up, the unit has a +5 invuln save. Their unit's rage attacks have assault. When the unit is selected to make advance moves, that advance move does not prevent the unit from being eligible to declare a charge. War Cry, once per battle per army. At the start of the command phase, you can use this ability. If you do, friendly orc units with the Wah ability are riled up. So you do the War Cry ability, and then all of the previous rules that I just mentioned trigger. And certain dudes can trigger riled up on certain armies, like a Stampa. A Stampa is perpetually riled up, so it always gets these abilities. I believe Gazgul has the ability to rile characters up as well. So that's one thing that they do in this is that they kind of expanded the wah. Before it used to be just wah, boom. Did I kill everything? No. Well, then I'm done. um,
Pretty
they've
much.
given more abilities they've thrown the ability to trigger essentially the wah more often, making it so the orc isn't just a one and done scenario. Um, like again, um, Gazgul, because of Makari gives him the ability to rile everybody up. So you can Warcry one turn, and then you can use the banner host in your movement phase, select a number of orc units, they become riled up. So there are different methods of getting this ability on your orcs, and that's the key premise of that is to make that major push. Like, I need to get this done now. That's when you would try and utilize their riled up special rule through either triggering with Gazgul, doing the war cry, or some other means that the game offers for you to trigger this ability of theirs.
Yeah, it's there. You can almost, I mean, if you're new to orcs, whatever, this is gonna all seem just like it's orcs because it is orcs. But you can almost feel or see out of what they're doing with the orcs their attempt to try and serious them up, quote unquote, to make them less of a joke. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not that they were a joke, like you play these guys because you want to have a good time and you don't want to win. They can make plenty dangerous lists all the time. Any
Oh
army
yeah.
can, despite what anybody will tell you, they can. But they're just like, I mean, look at their pointy hats and they're like their derpy smile when they're doing
Mm-hmm.
stuff like on grins. They are
And their baby
they are a joke.
squigs.
Yeah, they're jokes, but they're also not jokes. But they've inadvertently kind of leaned hard into orcs are a meme, and
Mm-hmm.
now that you can feel it, they're trying to pull that back,
Yep.
and it'll never go away because
If
your
it
fan
went
base won't
away,
let it.
and if they went away, then they wouldn't be orcs anymore, to a degree.
Yeah, but it's one of the things that like orc fans, I think you have a variety of people in your fandom, and every faction's got different type of fans. But I think some of the more fun orc fans that I've come across are it. You know, they're like they understand the fourth wall breaking. You know, they're like it's just enough Deadpool where it's not too much Deadpool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they get it, and the fans that get it understand that at the end of the day, they are the joke, and at the end of the day, they are the catalyst for big events to happen in the universe of 40k, but may not be the focus of the big bad side of it. Because, like I said, orcs start something and then chaos here takes it over. Chaos is the ultimate like kill stealer, like in
Mm-hmm.
that regard. Like they take over all of the campaigns. It's always chaos trying to
Always
loot out.
Abaddon.
Yeah, always trying to make a name for themselves, or you know, in a twist of fate, the Eldar are the big bad trying to orchestrate stuff, and then they got to peace out because the orcs got wise. Like, hey,
Yep.
wait a minute, and they're like, oh, bye, and they're
Like,
just like,
like, well, we'll get into the Eldar when they finally come out. That's
yeah,
what I can talk a long time about. Probably the most crazy, in-depth primer out of all these is going to be Dark Angels, Thousand Suns, and the Eldar, and possibly the Necrons.
yeah,
Space Wolves
and a
is just going to
little
be a
bit,
lot of shouting. Space Wolves is just going to be a lot of shouting at the
yeah,
screen. Um,
but like the orcs are just they. So everything in 40k can be a horror movie,
mm-hmm.
and that includes the orcs. They can be
Yep.
absolutely horrific. The thing I always say about 40k to people is that 40k looks at any other settings, galaxy universe ending threat, use on Vong or the flood or anything else like that. 40k as a setting looks at all that and goes, that's just Tuesday. Like it's that over the top. It's that over the top. It's that's
there's
not it's crazy. So
there's
the orcs can be very much a
yeah,
menace.
there's that whole meme joke. Oh, What would you be? Would you want to go to your favorite fantasy universe? Star Wars fans, of course. Star Trek fans, absolutely. 40K fans, no.
Yeah, hell no. It's a fine place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there, and I wouldn't want to actually visit. I'd visit it in game form.
Yeah,
But like,
I'll visit where they can't hurt me.
yeah, because
um,
theoretically, you think the wrong thought and you're demonically
yep.
possessed. Like it's crazy. But
But
like it's a ruthless setting, and orcs fit that. But they're the most memey. They're the one that they're the faction that you can have everything be super super scary and dangerous, them included. But then they can also bring a certain light to the setting where you're not traumatized when you're playing it.
and
It's like
interesting thing going back to the lore of the orcs is I don't know how. There's a couple of things there. Is I don't know how much of it is really established, but one thing that sometimes you kind of need to be reminded of in the books is technically the orcs do not speak Gothic or English. They actually
right.
do have their own language. It's just that we always see them. We've never actually seen them talking in their own language, and like they're probably the only faction where they don't have like a here's the language com to give you an example of their language. The closest we get is wah when they yell. They usually that's the thing. Whenever they like yell or bellow, it's typically them going wah. Um but they do actually have their own language. It's like a gutturally, grunty, growly language, but they also they can learn to speak basic or gothic, sorry.
Yeah.
And another thing that's also kind of cool is Matt did a primer about the orcs a long time ago. You should find it should be in the playlist of the channel that was. um, they have probably one of the best economies out of any
Oh yes.
society
The tooth.
because
Your tooth.
their currency is their teeth. So orcs are like sharks. They keep growing their teeth. They never run out. So they pull out a teeth, another one will eventually pull in. And so they use teeth as currency. And because of that, it's their teeth. They're biodegradable, so there's never too much money in orc society, and there's never not enough money in orc society. Because if you're short, you just punch someone in the face and get their teeth. um,
Yeah.
it's one of the more interesting things about the orcs that I really enjoy is so they're a race that basically like it's a sentient race, and you're sitting there going, what would we do as humans if we knew our teeth would grow back? Aside from get rid of all the dentists. Like, what a sentient creature would do knowing that that is a resource they can keep getting as long as there's them alive, as long as the race still exists. So that was always something I
Yeah.
thought was really cool. And it's like a tooth is enough to get you like a meal, whereas a bag of teeth could maybe get you a piece of equipment, and then it just goes on from there.
Yeah. And then you got, of course, the bigger the orc, the bigger the tooth, the
Yep.
more it's
The
worth.
val. Yep.
It's it's just very weird. Like, and the thing is, orcs they meet the qualifications for sentience, but you really can't think of them like a
As
typical sentient
yep.
species.
You can't really reason with them. You can't really compromise with them. You can
They
to a
don't really have a
degree.
grasp of mortality either.
No.
They understand they can die and that
Yep.
they kill things and that they can be killed, but it's not it's almost like, well, I'll just respawn is almost a thought. Like it's not literally what happens,
Yep.
but it's almost like that's the thought because you have fighter bomb pilots, and it was been in the lore multiple times that when they enter a dive bomb, they just don't pull out of it because they're just so enraptured by the speed they slam headfirst into the ground, and
Yep.
they're not afraid. It's just this is awesome until that's
Not.
it. But like it's odd. Like it's and when I say they're like fantasy orcs, I mean Warhammer fantasy orcs because Warcraft orcs and Ultima orcs and every D&D orcs and Lord of the Rings or Urukai and orcs, they're all different.
Different,
They're all
yes.
variations of a theme, which is usually big horde strong thing, but then they have a lot of nuance and difference. I'm talking about GW's Warhammer fantasy orcs,
Mm,
which also don't really understand the concept of dying in the same way. But it's it's what makes is what makes them interesting, but also leads to them feeling so bland most of the time. Is that because of this, they get the one dimensionality thing, just
mm,
like the chaos joke, and just like um, you know the Mechanicum jokes and whatnot. It's like we know those factions are more than that because they are just inherently from the outskirts more complexly written. And it's not
yes.
the orcs are simply written; is that the complexity is in their simpleness as a species.
Yep.
Like it's it sounds silly, but it's hard to make something done well that's simple. And it's just
Yes.
like if you look at a really well painted Nurgle, it's hard to look that gross. It's very weird. It's
um,
hard. Like it's a weird concept.
And one also interesting thing to note here about it, we talk about their power of belief, and we mentioned how, like, they believe red goes faster, blue is luckier, I believe. Yellow makes bigger explosions, and purple is stealth because you never seen a purple orc. um, that one is a joke. It's not really a fish. It's
Yeah.
one of those unofficial jokes because GW made a joke about it once because they like it was funny. Um, I was talking to a friend. I was like, "Oh, hey, they did a video painting an orc," and the guy's like, "Okay, this is a cool video, but why'd he pick purple for the camouflage? That seems a little weird." I was like, "Cause you can't see purple. Have you ever seen a purple orc?" um, this doesn't apply to other races, so when they see the Blood Angels and the Blood Angels start attacking, the Blood Angels don't suddenly go, "Holy crap, brother, I am moving faster than I was before." And the Ultramarines aren't shooting with much greater accuracy because they're much luckier now. And the Imperial Fists aren't the richest because they're yellow.
Yeah.
It
It,
only really
it's
applies to them.
yeah, it's weird because they're also like a speed freak army will just be generally more happy to chase after Blood Angels because they're red.
Yes.
But like it's almost, and this is not the case. It doesn't affect the Blood Angels, but it's almost like you're playing two separate games entirely. Like the Blood Angels are playing against the Orcs with what they understand. The Orcs are fighting Blood Angels by their rules. So the Blood
Yep.
Angels aren't moving faster, but almost to the Orcs is kind of like they are, but they're not.
To a degree, the
Because
orcs are planning it thinking that's what's going to happen. Oh, these are red boys. We better get out all the bikes so we can catch them.
yeah, and like for the orc colors, red goes faster, blue is the lucky color, yellow is wealth and explosions, purple is the ultimate stealth joke,
Yep.
black is toughness.
Ah,
Black
that I
is
didn't
toughness
know.
and durability. Yep. Green is universally considered just to be the best color because they're
Yes,
orcs and
because
they're
the
green.
orcs color. Yep.
Yeah. White is associated with deadliness, and the
Okay.
black and white checkers represents brutality and cunning, which is
Okay.
why leaders always are black and
Ten
white checkers, which sucks
checkers.
for painters because they're black and white checkers.
Yep.
but
But that's
but that is
interesting. So I learned something new already. I didn't know that about the checkered pattern. I only knew about
yeah.
yellow, blue, and red.
Well, these get added to. Like
Yep.
they're gonna like whatever seems to make the most sense. But like the 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 thing is like when like for example when the Raven Guard in Imperial Armor Book 8 they assaulted an orc world. So it's one of the first times we saw a pure orc world with all the
Mm.
orc shenanigans. The orcs they were facing were black armored orcs. They believe they're tougher, but the orcs look at them and go, and these are tough gits because they're black. Like they don't. It doesn't make the Raven Guard tougher rules wise.
Yeah.
There's no rules associated with it. It is an orc mindset, however. So
Yep.
it kind of almost works not backwards because the rules are the rules, but lore wise, you can think of it this way: the Blood Angels are red, and so the Speed Freaks are like, "We got us a challenge, boys."
Yep.
So they chase after them, but the Speed Freaks may not catch up because their belief is that well, they're also fast, so they're slower now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because their belief is like we're as fast as they are. So even though they could theoretically go faster if they're let's say facing off against the Raven Guard,
Mm.
again, lore, not rules, is where it gets messy.
Yep.
they're technically not as fast as they would be there because their belief structure is we're facing off against fast guys.
Yes.
It doesn't make them faster. They're just thinking
Yeah.
about it and their expectations a certain thing.
Yeah, in the
Just
sense,
like
like I said, it's not like they don't impose their belief on the other army, and the other army gains benefits because of it. It's all
yeah,
on the orc side of this
yeah.
of the conflict.
So the orcs, in a way, impact themselves. If you think about it like a video game, the orcs give themselves buffs and nerfs,
Yep,
and buffs and debuffs at the same time. So if it's a black armored orc, I'm tough. And now I'm facing off against a black armored space marine. They got to be tough.
tough. Yep.
Now I'm not as tough,
Mm-hmm.
but we're both equally. It's weird.
Yep.
Like it doesn't. It would be in a video
Yep.
game you would lose your buff because they're black,
Yep.
and they're black,
And
and it's very strange.
they face against an ultramarine, and the orc falls and trips. They'd be like, "Oh, that git is so lucky."
Yeah,
But
but
he's essentially makes them trip up because they're like, well, something lucky is going to happen to this dude, and it's going to screw me over because I'm not as blue as him.
and that's all based on the lore and how it'll be written in a novel. In terms
Yep.
of gaming and video game purposes, none of that matters.
None of that
Except for the orcs. Like
Yeah.
literally red painted models with the rule red ones go faster used to get an extra inch of movement.
Yep.
I don't
And
know how
blue.
it works now.
Yeah, I don't think they do. Unfortunately, they got rid of the color thing. I think probably because they were like, oh, well, we got to keep, we have to account for the gray armies, because back in the day, gray armies wasn't really a thing. Yeah, actually, no, back when I was playing in like third edition, there was never really any like gray plastic armies. Everything used to be painted. And like I said,
Because it was a hard rule. You had to
Yeah.
have a painted army to play and stuff.
But back there's red went an extra inch. Blue, I think, got to re-roll 1/1 in a squad shooting group. And yellow, I think, all blast weapons had a +1 strength or something. Like they had various effects based on their color.
Yeah.
Which was fun. And I hope that orcs do get something like that in 11th edition. I know we've seen a bunch of the rules out for them already. I am not the best tactician at all. Outside of Battlefleet Gothic, I am fairly decent at, but like 40k I'm not the best at, so I can't really go into all the different like tacticalness of, oh, is this one the best, or how's this works. But so far from all the stuff I've been reading and from people that are a little more in the know on this end of the tournament play, orcs are in a solid spot right now. I just hope that they have a little character in 11th edition. That's what I'm hoping for with a lot of the armies, is that we get a little more character and not just sameness. I want an orc army. I want speed freaks to not just be the White Scars, but they're orcs, or the Ravenwing, but they're orcs. I want them to be... I want a uniqueness. So when it's like, oh, you're playing against speed freaks, that's going to be different than any other bike-based army in the game. That's what I'm looking forward to most, hopefully, in 11th edition.
Yeah, orcs have character. Like, to be fair, every faction has character to it.
Yes.
It's just we want that flavor in the lists.
Yes.
A big issue that 40k has had for several editions is the flavor gets left at the door, and the lists are very generic. Outside of playing something special like a dedicated Ravenwing or Deathwing force with Dark Angels, your standard Dark Angel force is going to look composition-wise just like Ultramarines and everybody else who's not doing their special thing, because of the flavor was gone and left at the door.
Yes.
And if you went flavor, you're generally putting yourself at a disadvantage. Although I've beaten plenty of forces with my flavorful Dark Angels back in the day, and because they just were like, "Oh, you're playing a bad codex," and I'm like, "You don't understand how the game works, do you?" But but you do have codices that are better or worse than others. The big hope is that with this edition and what we're seeing is that flavor returns to the list.
And when one thing also with that is that the flavor isn't the detachment nobody uses. Like
Right.
in older editions, like in 10th, it was like, oh, we have all these cool. This is so flavorful. That's so Ultramarines. Oh, that's so Imperial Fist. Oh no, all of those are the worst ones ever. You need this generic bland formation to ever win in this game. I want the flavor to be just as competitive as the generic, so we can have more personality with those armies.
Yeah, and to a degree, that'll hopefully happen. It'll never be one to one because it
No,
can't.
100%.
But like the thing, and that's why with the orcs, like the orcs are one of those forces where you just look at them. The orc codex and the orc lore is dripping with person. There's no other force like orcs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you might be saying, well, there's no other force like Tyranids or Necrons. It's like, yeah, but you're missing the point. Like, there's no other force like Necrons where tech is magic, but there are very techy forces.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other monstrous creature style thing like Tyranids, but there are things that are gigantic monsters. There's nothing quite like an orc in any
Mm-hmm.
other force in the way they are. The happy-go-lucky git that is terrible upon his own,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely atrocious if you face a single orc. You could,
Yep.
a fire warrior could probably take him out, maybe not, but
And
but like and they're in their numbers because they have strength in numbers and
yep.
like security in numbers. And that's the other thing. Their horde army, might is right, strength in numbers, but part of that WA mentality is I'm surrounded by all the boys. I'm invulnerable.
Yep.
Like because there's so many of us. That's why they can just suicide push on everything. And that's how they're able to, when they decide to just boil over into the galaxy at large, you can't stop them.
No.
Really. You need to bring everything you can
And
to stop them.
and to a degree, some could say the orcs are probably the closest to not being the evil race in the universe, because there's very little motivation that has a nefarious piece to it. Chaos want to kill all the humans, so their chaos gods can rule everything. Necrons believe the universe belongs to them, and they will get what was denied to them when they were flesh and blood. Eldar literally think they own the universe, and they're going to own it again. And the humans believe that the universe is theirs to claim. The Tau believe that they are the only dudes that know how to live the right way, and they will kill you if you don't agree with them. And the Nids think everything is a buffet. The orcs are just looking for a good time. They
Yeah,
have
because the orcs are
no
a
other
living weapon. They
drive.
were,
Yes.
yeah, they're like, they have the mentality of if a sword gains sentience, and a sword
Yes.
doesn't know how to do anything but be a sword. An
Mm-hmm.
orc doesn't know how to do anything but be an orc, and it's not nefarious. They'll
No.
do cunning tactics, but they're not evil. Like
They're not
it's
sitting there
like
going, we're going to sneak in at night and murder all the children because we want them to suffer.
right, like they don't understand that concept.
Yeah.
That they but what they do for everybody else is evil, and that's where the evil
Yes.
drips in, is that it's that they're not motivated by an evil agenda per se, but what they do is viewed by every other society,
Side.
including chaos, and if it's
Yep.
had a society, is evil.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing about them is that they are designed to be the ultimate weapon, but it's a showcase that ultimate weapon doesn't mean that you are a Gundam,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it means you have a faction. They are a living weapon. They're a bio weapon, straight
Yep.
up, just like the Tyranids are a bio weapon from a different time place.
Yep.
So it's why nobody wants orcs and Tyranids to fight for long, because orcs will just get stronger, the ones that live, and the spores will still happen so they can come back. And well, not literally come back, they just make more of them, and the orcs will get a nonstop high off of fighting Tyranids because it's bestial versus bestial, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no boringness here because it's all instinct. And when
Yep.
instinct meets its instinct, there's no you don't the only way to win is when the other side is gone. And guess what? The other side isn't going to go
Go
anywhere because
anywhere.
the orcs are going to spore, and the Tyrans are going to feast. So they're
Yep.
going to have plenty of biomass, and the orcs are going to have plenty of time. And whoever comes out ultimately on top is going to be an absolute
Nightmare.
danger to the galaxy. So it's a terrible thing, but could also be the only way to truly stop the Tyranids once the actual main body shows up.
Yep.
So
And another aspect that could interest you in playing the orcs is creativity, because of a lot
Okay.
of the goofiness and the way they work, there's a lot of creativity there. So let's just say, for example, you love the orcs, but you love the land raider. You could take a land raider and get all a bunch of orc bits and bust it together and go, this is my battle wagon. It is a looted land raider, because that is something the orcs do. They will
They loot
take
everything.
they'll take, if they see something and they're like, that can work for me, they'll, and that's the part of also the kind of the crazy, like their mech boy will be like, this thing doesn't have an engine, rip the engine out, throw in what they consider an engine, and it works. They'll rip out all the guns and put shooters on the thing and orc it all up. Back in the day, the orcs were one of the best armies because they literally were, they had a whole section called looted vehicles. You could take any tank from any other army, and it had a set of special rules to make it orky. So you get the aspect of taking different models from other armies to craft your own things. You've got like there's a lot of commando orcs out there. Like if you Google like orc commandos or something, there are tons of different creative ways you can play around with the models to just make them awesome. Like recently, Phil showed me a video where an orc was using his base as a shield.
Yeah.
So he's standing and he's holding his model's base as a buckler shield, and technically legal because he's on a base. um, there's like this classic image of Orc Commandos where one's holding a cutout of a space marine that's waving.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was another one. A dude cut open the base so it looked like he was popping out of a manhole cover. So the orcs are one of the more off the wall imaginary armies you can play when it comes to the modeling aspect of the game. There's a
Yeah.
lot of fun you can do with orc armies when it comes to
There's
like modeling them.
yeah, there's a whole lot of fun for fun's sake. Like obviously the orcs aren't going to battle holding up a cardboard cutout of a space marine.
Yeah,
But it's just funny
obviously.
because it's a commando. But like
Yep.
or in a trash can, unless maybe they literally think they're sneaking. But
Yes.
they provide you if you have a imagination and a crafty side to you that likes to kind of jury rig things, scratch build, custom build, kit bash, loot. I mean, there's a reason why the orcs are a meme for everything, including their own looting, because you can't loot a Carnifex, but people model it anyway.
Yep.
But but it doesn't make sense because it's not a machine. And that's the thing. They raise squigs and have squigoths and all that stuff,
Yep.
but they're not like geneticists or anything.
Nope.
They just deal with slapping armor on stuff and make it a vehicle. Their vehicles used to be, let's face it, not the best looking
Mm-hmm.
kit wise. And so part of what really spurred on the orc imagination of the player to kit bash was not just to make a looted wagon, but to make something that counted as a truck that looked better than the really squished looking truck from back in the day.
Yep.
Um, and that continues where like the battle wagon didn't have a model before. You had to kit bash it until Forge
Till
World
they
had
made
one, and
one.
people just kit bash it anyway because it was like $1 bajillion. And then they eventually made a battle wagon, which was a cool model.
Mm-hmm.
But people still like to kit bash it, and that's where you would take the Land Raider or whatever else, and you would take something from GI Joe. Like it didn't matter. You put enough orc spiky glyphs on it, it looks like an orc thing. Um,
Indeed.
and you have a lot of fun with it. It's and then even for the models themselves, like if you want somebody to have a different looking Choppa, you could just take a piece of plastic card, just cut it in a weird shape, and he's got a weird Choppa. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
like you can really personalize it as much as you want without it feeling like this is cheesy because
Yep.
that's the orc motif is cheesy. Like
Yep.
it's fantastic, and don't let the fantastic looking kits that they have now. Like the orc truck looks amazing. It
Oh
looked
yeah.
good. The second version, the orc truck looks even better now. I'm not saying don't get it. I'm just saying don't be afraid to take that and mangle it to something else or something else entirely to be an orc truck.
Yep. And speaking of that, there is one tank that will forever be the coolest thing in my opinion, and that's the Chinork. If anyone has ever seen this, you gotta look up the orc helicopter that was called the Chinork. It was one of the greatest models that Forge World ever did, and I'm sad that it no longer exists.
Oh, the Chinork.
Yep. Oh no, it was great, and it had orcs flying off the thing. It came with special arms, so you could model orcs flying off the side of the thing. It was just glorious.
Yeah, orcs. I mean, we've been focusing on the orcs. We haven't said anything about their grots. We haven't
Oh
said anything
yes.
about the squigs or the squigoths. Like they have, it's this is the most fantasy of 40k is
Mm-hmm.
the orc. If you're somebody who, let's say, is approaching 40k, let's say you discover this because you're new to 40k, that's awesome, and you are more of a fantasy nut, and let's say, you know what, 40k's got enough to scratch that itch, and you don't want to be human, but you want to be as fantasy as possible, you play orcs. Because there's even the snake bites who are primitive orcs, which is almost an oxymoron. But but like you you can straight up do that. You could go and get Warhammer Fantasy models and just give them a gun, and
Yeah.
you got yourself an orc boy. Like they have, they are the army of personality. I love a bunch of different factions. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there. There's a lot of personality in every faction, but that is like their bread and butter. Even
Mm-hmm.
if it's not your thing, like you can't deny. There's no mistaking an orc army. There's no going, oh, what faction is that? Like there's no,
Yep.
from across the room, but that's an orc army.
So going off of that, they like I said there are other races of orc in their armies, which is the Grots. The Grots are the lowest in orc society. They are the little slave minions to other orcs because they're little and tiny. They're slave labor. They're basically
Their ammunition for
yes.
the for this teleporter
um,
gun.
they're essentially the second class citizen that they just treat horribly. They'll step on them and not even have a second look at that. They will treat them like crap, and the Grots take it because they're like, they's bigger than us. They're
Yes,
going to kick
they
us.
yeah, they're grots. There's some of them are called snotlings. There's just
Yep.
a whole bunch of stuff. Like they are like the classic goblin in an orc camp. The goblin just
Mm-hmm.
gets abused by the orcs. That's what they are.
Yep.
They tend to be a little mischievous and a little more intelligent enough to realize they need the orcs because they can't live on their own. Because literally, like a house cat is a danger to them. Like
Yep.
that's they're that frail, just about.
Um, and they do have in their society, there are major clans in the orc society. You've got probably the most famous of the orc clans because of the big bad poster child of the orcs, which is the Goths, who is led by Gazgal Thraka, the prophet of Gork and Mork. Um, then you've got the Evil Sons, which is where the Speed Freaks are from. Um,
Yep.
they are dedicated to speed and making as loud noise as possible. They are like, if the Guffs are love of violence and aggression, the Evil Sons are the ones that are in love with speed. Then we got the snake bites, which James had mentioned are the most primitive of them, in the sense that they're the often remain as like feral in culture.
Yeah.
Um,
They're
but
your country boys of orcs. Put it to you that
essentially,
way.
um, then there's the Death Skulls. The Death Skulls are the ones that are most known for scavenging, borrowing, and looting. You never really trust a Death Skull because he's probably going to try and walk. They're essentially like the Blood Ravens of the orcs. You don't trust them because they are probably going to want to take everything. They are
Yeah,
big
that
into
that meme.
possessions. Um,
Yeah.
And so no one really trusts a Death Skull. Then there's the Bad Moons, which I believe are the wealthiest.
Yeah.
And one of the big things with them is their teeth grow faster than anyone else. So they have a faster way of generating income. But they are the ones that are very obsessed with money. And then there's the Blood Axes. The Blood Axes are the second most distrusted of the orc races clans, and they're one of the ones that tend to fight along the sides of the Imperium on a lot of occasions. Um, they are probably the ones as being the most treacherous. Like out of all of the clans, the orcs don't trust the Blood Axes the most. Um, they were once probably intended to be more natural leaders, but because they trade openly with the other worlds of the Imperium, they parlay with the foe and will eventually consider retreating from battle if faced with um, insurmountable odds. No one trusts a blood axe, but there's
They're
all.
in a way they're orc nerds because they know how to retreat and they know
Yeah,
tactics. So they're the nerd of the orc, and nobody trusts the nerds.
and they're the ones most willing to have open discussion with other
Yeah.
races. And one that's not listed a lot of times because they're primarily a BFG thing is the freebooter, which is basically a pirate orc.
Yeah, they're free. They're literally freebooters.
Yep,
I love a freebooter.
they are an orc that doesn't associate with a clan. They are their own orc in a sense. And for anyone that's wondering, in the Dornpor saga, the our famous Alexander, he is a Death Skull. Um,
There you go.
Mystery solved.
Yes.
So if
Oh
he
yeah,
ever shows
the
back up
freebooters.
again,
Yeah, the freebooters are just this amorphous blob of pirate orcs,
yep,
basically. They are straight up dressed like a pirate. Like
yes,
they
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 used to have a character,
they
I believe, that had a like a classic
yeah.
pirate hat.
Their special unit are the Flash Gits.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what the Flash Gits were like. Started off as freebooters more or less. So like that's like the lore behind the unit model kit was like it's
Okay.
freebooters
Yeah.
because like they have the flashiest guns because they're pirates and they do all that
Mm-hmm.
flashy jazz. But they are pretty cool. Yeah, they have factions. And what one thing of note about the orcs, and it's not unique, but it's kind of unique for a faction like them, is that you'll notice we don't have any chaos orcs or a chaos
Mm-hmm.
orc faction. Technically, in the lore, there have been orcs that have succumbed to chaos because they get whipped in a frenzy and a demon influence
This is
is
them.
not so much possessing them because I don't know how you possess an orc,
The closest
but
you
like,
could possibly maybe do is a weird
yeah,
boy, and even then, that's risky.
yeah, because their head will explode. But it's just one of the things they do for fun. Um, but like more or less coercing it and like using them as pawns.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a thing, especially Corn will use orcs as pawns, but not really try to possess or have chaos orcs because they're incompatible.
There
But
actually is a corn planet with a bunch of orcs fighting demons, and it's essentially Valhalla. They come back to life every time because Korn is just so entertained by all of the amount of violence the orcs are willing to dish out unquestionably forever.
yeah, it's the promised land for orcs. But but it's like it's in a game in 40K, especially in an age where chaos has to have its hands in everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's been nice to not have a random specialty offshoot chaos orc faction, which has been in fan made things. I even ran a dark heresy setting where orcs that were just under they weren't like possessed, but they were under influence of like chaos through like the haze, like
Yeah.
kind of taking over their, because they're like seeing red, and so they're enraged. So chaos is like, good, good, let the hate flow through you,
You.
and it's just like, but it's just nice that we don't have that, like, because you have things like in fantasy you had the chaos dwarves and stuff,
Yep.
and it's like, so it's nice that you don't have that with orcs here. I mean, you don't have that with necrons, and you don't You don't have it with Eldar, kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, the Drukhari aren't really a chaos faction, but
We'll
they're as
get into
close as you
yeah,
get.
we'll get to
but
that when their codex drops.
they're as close as you can get. But like it's typically, especially because humanity is so widespread, because it's our galaxy now,
Yep.
because of the Great Crusade. You always have chaos this, chaos that, chaos over here, chaos over there, and yes, chaos is trying to take over the Milky Way galaxy. But it's nice to not have a faction that isn't outside of it, so the Tyranids don't because they're not from here.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have a faction that is from here that's kind of like chaos. Never heard of it. I just see a bunch of twinks. Like it's just like they're
um,
just spiky. They're just spiky armored gits. Is all
they're
I see.
spiky
And
gits. Yes, the
yeah,
orcs do have their own like classification of names for all the different races. Like Eldar are the pointy ears or the knife ears.
yeah,
Chaos are the spiky boys. Space Marines are beakies because of the Corvus armor having the beak helmet, so they just call, even though at this time there really isn't a whole lot of beaky helmets, they still refer to them as beakies. Humans are the humies. Um,
yes.
Tau, don't know what they call the Tau. Um, Necrons are
Probably
the.
call them soft or something
Let's
because
see.
they break easy.
Let's see. I know Necrons are referred to as the Weird Boys, uh, or um, or the They usually call them the Tinnies or the Tin Boys. The Tyranids are the Bugs or
Yeah,
the Bug Eyes. The Tau are the
makes sense.
Fish Boys or the Gun Runts
That's
or
right.
Blue
That's right.
Gits. Eldar are
Yeah, see, blue gits was what I was thinking of because they're
Yes,
like these. They
because
don't fight well. These blue gits.
Eldar are pansies,
Yes, pansies.
squanies, and knife-eared gits. Space Marines are
Yeah,
beakies, and humans or umis, and
yeah, the
chaos are just
Umis.
called spiky boys or spiky beakies. Like they just
Yeah.
take whatever name they have for the humans and they just add spikes to it because that's the one feature they note on Chaos Marines. And to
Yeah.
anyone that is curious about the three characters that orcs now have, as we mentioned, Gazgul is a goth, Nazdrag is a bad moon, and
Mhm.
Wazdaka is a evil sun.
Yeah. The it's again, it's refreshing. The orcs are always like if you are I call it coming up for air. You know, when you look at stuff like you, if you get invested in, let's say you're collecting Necrons or you're collecting Chaos or Tau or anybody, and you get really into your lore and you're building up your force, and you come up for air and you remember, oh yeah, orcs exist. It's
Mhm.
just if you're an orc fan, I imagine it's the opposite. Like, oh yeah, they're the things that are not us. But like, it's just it's nice because sometimes 40K, not sometimes it is a setting where over the top is the norm, but sometimes I can get to you, and the orcs are definitely over the top, but they're over the top in their own quirky way where you go,
Yep.
oh yeah, there is charm in this terrible universe. Like
Yes.
it's horrific charm because it's an orc trying to kill you, but there's a little bit of charm in here beyond just that everything's dying and there is only war. So
Yes. In the grim darkness of the far future where there is only war, the orcs are at least having fun.
yeah, pretty much. And that's what's neat about them, and it's why I say they can become so bland and boring because people will latch onto the quirks and run with it for any faction. And the unfortunate thing about orcs, everything's a quirk.
Yep.
Or everything can be a quirk. Like there's other factions where only certain things are. Like the Blood Ravens, the joke is they steal everything, and they're
Yep.
magpies because of Dawn of War,
Yep.
particularly Dawn of War 2. But like it's a joke, and you get and like that's it for the Blood Ravens. The only
Yep.
other joke is that like they don't know who their Primarch is and that whatever else.
Yep.
But for the orcs, is literally everything from their teeth currency to their colors to their sizes to
To,
their
they
their origin,
literally
everything.
they literally have a thing called a hair squig. Yes, those little round balls with feet and a tail, little tadpole things. They're called squigs, and they are a utility of the race. And they have various types of squigs that do different things. And one of the things they have is a hair squig. That is there to be your toupee or your beard if you want it to be. And there's a thing called a face squig, and it's because it's got a really big mouth and it loves to bite faces, and orcs have competitions on if you could bite its face before it bites your face. So they literally pick it up and they try to chomp on each other's face. There is the
This is
food
why the
squig.
jokes exist.
There's the food squig where they cook it for food. There's the juice squid. They squeeze to get liquid to drink. There's the bomb squig. They wrap a bunch of bombs on it and say, go that way, and it will, and blow up. And if it doesn't blow up, you just sent a nasty little Pomeranian out into the field. It's going to do something. Because, like, an attack squig is basically a Pomeranian and a Chihuahua mixed into one thing. It's just a vicious, nasty, I want to kill anything in front of me type of vicious little thing.
The squigs are, and this is also thanks to Warhammer Fantasy Age of Reckoning MMO, but the squigs are the most adorable GW product. Period.
It is,
like, and I don't count Middle Earth stuff because that wasn't theirs. They bought that. But what they made up, the squig is their most adorable thing. I don't know. If you don't like a squig of some type, in some way, you're lying to yourself. I'm sorry. Everybody loves a squig in some way. And if you don't, you just haven't seen all the squigs yet.
Yes. There are so many squigs.
They're just, I mean, there's the great white shark squig thing that's written on. Like, there's
the giant gargantuan squigs that look like freaking Godzilla. There are
squigs are the one thing that, you know, would have to be trainable, but the one thing that was like, I would love that to actually exist.
Officially,
the one thing of 40K.
Okay, officially, there are 46 different types of squigs.
Well, that's what I said. You just haven't met the right squig yet. It's the only thing from 40K that I legitimately 100% would be A-okay with if it existed, if I could train a squig and have one.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to, because it is just hilarious, and one of these names is going to intrigue you to look into it more, is we've got the attack squig, the bag squig, the bile squig, the bitey squig, bomb squig, boom squig, bull squig, burn a squig, buzzer squig, buzzing squig, chewing squig, colossal squig, eaten squig, guard squig, face-eating squig, flesh-hater squig, flesh-eater squig, gas squig, gob squib, hair squib, hairy squig, herd, horned, juicy, mimic, oily, orcosaurus, paint, parasite hunting, screech, spiky, slobbering, squidgen, squighawk, squighog, squighounds, squigosaurus, squigpipe, musical squig, squig sharks, squigoths, stick squigs, swab squigs, Sirene strigs, targeting squigs, vaccine squigs, vampire squigs, and weird squigs. That is all the different squigs in the 40K universe.
So far.
So, like James says, there is a squig for you.
They are fantastic. I don't like. So often I see stuff online talking about like the morphology of an orc. You know, their weird DNA is like a trihelix almost, and whatever else. It's interesting stuff. But really, the real mystery is what the heck a squig truly is, because it can do so much. It's like it's a crazy angry tadpole.
It is. And we love it.
Yeah, they are the one, like,
and they are an orc. Thing. They count as an orc.
Yeah, it's strange. Like, they are the one thing that no matter how silly things get with orcs, I accept the squig. I don't care how silly the squig is. I'll accept it because it's a squig. There's no better way to describe them other than it's a squig. Like, I can't say it any clearer. It's weird. It's almost like a. I mean, if you are new to 40K, it's like a blurg,
Mm.
only smaller and larger and that size and different colors and completely different than a blurg, but also kind of like a blurg.
Yeah, a
So
blurred
it's
kinda gives you like squig vibes.
yeah, it's kind of like that, only nothing even remotely close, but
Because
still kind of. You could. It's just weird. It's. eh, I love them. I mean,
the
they. I wish you could do a full squig army, to be honest with you.
just have one orc that just guides all the squigs, and it's just an
Yes,
army of squigs.
just an avalanche of squigs. But yeah. So that's what I mean by like the orcs are like that. They're orcs without leading into the meme are the right proportion of silly to straight up out of the codex.
Yep.
Like
They're the
everything else,
perfect
we
blend.
ascribe to it.
They could be
Yeah.
goofy when you need them to be, and they could be terrifying when you need them to be.
Yeah. It really fleshes like if you need just a weird, quirky antagonist for something for an intrepid group of not heroes, people who don't want to die, we'll put it that way, are trying to escape from, it's orcs. Because you can get away from an orc if you have enough room because something's gonna trip it up somehow.
Yep.
But like then if you at the same turn, if you need the blood howl moon to rise one night and they just go bat crazy and become the horror that is an orc wa of just pure horror fiction, they can do that. The same orcs. You don't need
Yep.
a whole different group. It's fantastic.
Um. So we are running out of time, so we are going to wrap it up here. If you guys have any questions about the orcs that you feel like we didn't really mention, or if we mentioned something and you're like, can you speak on that? Leave a comment. We will deep dive into it a bit more. The Orc Codex for 11th edition is already up on pre-order. If you're looking for books involving the orcs, you could do the Beast Arises, though there's a good chunk of books where the orcs aren't even mentioned in it, but that's a good that's a good where to go about like just orcs from the human perspective. And if you want more, oh, I want to know more about the orcs, they do have a series of books. I believe one of the big ones in it is The Prophet of Wa. Um, and I can't remember the name of them, but they do have a set of books that are taken from the orc perspective. So it's not human, it's how the orcs see themselves. If you want a little bit of both, The Purging of Calidus is a great book because half of it is from the Dark Angel's point of view and the other half is from Gazgul's point of view, so you get like a blend of them. Um, you could also play Space Marine, the first game, that the orcs were the primary antagonist through a lot of that.
Mhm.
And our next video is going to be on the Space Marines, which is going to be the second codex of 11th edition. Now, when we say Space Marines, generic. Not space. We won't talk about Space Wolves, Black Templars, Blood Angels, or Dark Angels. This will primarily be on the generic Space Marine chapters, with a little bit of focus on Ultramarines, White Scars, Raven Guard, Imperial Fists, Salamanders,
Yeah.
and all that fun stuff. Anything that doesn't have its own codex.
Yeah.
Um,
The typical what's been in a Spaceman Codex
yep.
for decades now type of
And
deal.
this is a subject that me and James are vastly knowledged in because we've played these armies for quite some time. So, going to be a very large chunk of information in terms of the lore aspect of the Space Marines on that
And
front.
also a lot more tangible. Like part of the thing about orcs, which is why there's definitely gonna be plenty of questions and plenty that can still be gone over, is that there's so much to orcs in terms of diversity. Even the basic orc boy, they break it down rules wise in the codex a certain way.
Yep.
But an orc boy is just an orc. A Gaskell is an orc boy of tremendous
Yep.
stature. But
The
like
biggest
it's
boy.
like there's just so much quirk that you can't possibly cover it all in a short amount of time. And it's not that other factions don't have that. It's a lot more compartmentalized. There's a lot more bureaucracy and like structure in
Yep.
a Space Marine force, for example, than there is in an Orc horde. So
And we get a little bit of a break because not all the Space Marines are in one codex.
yes,
So when we get to that one, we will, like I said, we'll be deep diving into the generic, basic Space Marines origins to current history and technology, belief system, and maybe dive into a handful of the chapters.
Yeah.
Going forward, discussing some of the rules changes that they've done and what we'd want to see out of it. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun. But for right now, what do you like about the Orks? What do you hate about the Orks? Is there something in this video we didn't discuss that you'd want us to discuss? Is there something in this video we briefly mentioned and you want us to deep dive into? Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you guys. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon, and give this video a like so it helps it circulate. We would greatly appreciate it. So, thank you all for watching, and until next time, fearless gamers, take care.